So good evening, everyone. So we are going to present something from Python today. In the last class, we discussed about the basics of econometrics, that how we should go and understand econometrics before jumping into the modeling or kind of stuff. How do you first of all try to understand it? With a parallel base today, we are going to introduce you Python. So in Python today, we are going to introduce the very basic concept. So it may happen that few of you who are very familiar with the Python or programming language in any other language, those people who are familiar with programming in any other language, it may happen that you will find few of the steps repetitive today, but it will be very helpful for the rest of the people, because we are going to start the understanding of Python, or for that matter any programming language, from the very basic. Okay, so let's continue our journey from here. Great. So first of all, there are so many languages available for programming. If you want to work in data science, if you want to work in any analytical field, there are a lot of languages available before you. Now, why we should choose Python, not any other language? First, we'll put few points before. What we'll put, I mean, we are going to put few points in favor of Python, that why we should use Python, and then maybe we'll jump very quickly to its basics. So the very first reason why we should use Python is this: that Python is free and it runs on almost all platforms. If you use Macintosh, Windows, Linux, whatever is your platform, it is very compatible with all those platforms. Second major reason to use Python is that it is being used by professional developers or programmers almost everywhere now in the world. So what happens that you will have proper guidance in context to development of logic, that how we should do anything in Python, or if you want to find out some guidance, or if you want to reach out to people for a particular problem, not for a particular concept but for a particular problem, the probability are very high that you will get some kind of help in Python as compared to any other language. So for that matter also, Python is very helpful. For that example, just to give you an example, if you have any problem in say C++, and you put that language in C, and you put up your problem relating to C++ on any of the platform where people resolve C++, now you will see that the number of those people are dwindling nowadays, but the number of people who are available to support you in Python, they are increasing day by day. Hence Python is one of the other, I mean, the another reason to favor Python is this also, that lot many professional peoples are using Python today. The third reason is a very active developer community is available for Python. You will find this is true for R also. So if you are using R for your data analytics, you will see that many a time you will find lot many packages available for R. The same is true for Python also. So developer community for R, Python, or few of the other languages are very active. So in that sense, you will have a lot of tools available, modern tools available to use in Python, because a lot of developer, I mean, a very active developer community. So I'm just skimming through these points so that you have a better understanding of why we are using Python. Now, the fourth important point, that why we want to use Python is Python support both procedural and OOPS. OOPS here means object-oriented programming. Okay, so when I say that Python is object-oriented programming, or Python can support procedural programming also, what I actually mean that almost everything in Python is an object. Now we'll talk about objects in the later classes, but the core idea is this, that you can manipulate or you can build your own objects in Python. I'm very sure most of you might not have understood what is object in Python, or for that matter, what is object in programming. But slowly and slowly, as class progresses, you will see that at the end of the class, at least you will have some kind of feeling that what are objects, and then you will understand the importance of Python. because most of the people who have joined this discussion today, they might have used R, or they might have used data, or maybe EViews for their analytics work. But today you will see that there is a very unique feature in Python which you cannot find in any other language. Not in any other language, but most of the language that generally economics people use. You will see that Python is object-oriented programming. We'll talk about this in detail in the further classes, but today I'm just giving you a term, object-oriented programming. Don't delve too deep into it. Just try and know a term that there is something called object-oriented programming. Okay. Now, the fifth important point is Python is very, very easy to learn. Today, if the moment we'll jump into the basics of Python, you will see that almost it is like normal day English that we speak in our normal life. It is almost like that. So what is the advantage if the Python is very easy to learn? The advantage is this, that if Python is very easy to learn, then you do not focus too much on syntax or any other kind of thing. Instead of that, you are able to focus on what you want to do in Python, or whatever you wanted to do in the beginning of your programming. So in that way, Python helps you design your programming better because it is very easy in its syntax. Great. So now let's discuss a little bit that how it is very easy, and we'll do a comparison with other language. Okay. So this is a very, very interesting comparison to do. Suppose one of the most famous language that people use nowadays is C++. So let's compare Python with C++. Now you want to print a very, very simple thing in both the languages, that is hello world. Now, if you want to print hello world in C++ and Python, just look at this comparison. Okay, so this is something like this. Okay, okay, yeah. So there is one typo here. This world must come here. Okay. Now read what is, how do you write hello world in C++? You will write include this thing plus void main plus all these things and then end, and then you close this bracket. This much is needed to type hello world. Just this world, hello world, if you want to type in C++, you need to do these many things. Compare this with Python. What else you needed to do here? World you need to write here. Okay, WORL and D. This is all needed in Python. That's it. Python print hello world in the quotes, and the hello world will come as output in Python. But to do the same thing in C++, you see how many things are needed in C++. Why this is so? We'll see it very quickly that why this is so. But this example is just for a comparison, not to explain you that how we do this thing in Python and how come so much things are needed in C++. This is just for an exposition that in C++, just to do this a very menial thing, you need so many things, but in Python you need very, very less. Just you type hello world. That's it. What is the advantage of this? The advantage is this, that if you don't have to do that many things in Python, it helps you to focus on your problem. You are not bothered about all these syntax thing. Instead of that, you are simply focused on your problem, what you wanted to do. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. This is a very interesting thing. I say that Python is a high level language. So what is the use of this? We are able to do this thing in Python, just writing C++ and getting the output as C++. Why we were able to do that? We were able to do that because Python is a high level language. When I say Python is a high level language, that means it do not deal it does not deal with the basic, it does not deal with the hardware of the system, or it does not go into the nitty gritty of the computer. Rather, it makes it very, very user friendly. That is just uh, the meaning of high level language. So you do not need to explain to the computer that how everything is going to be implemented. Instead of that, you simply type in your basic English and those things will get converted into low level language, and that will be executed. Okay, so that is what here is. So it helps to avoid low level details for time, uh, for that matter, for that time, and focus on understanding. So if you are able to understand your problem properly, it with little introduction of Python, you will see that it will be very, very easy to write a program in Python. Okay, just to put an example to show how this is happening. Let's see it here. In C++, suppose you want to define a variable, right? So generally we define a variable by capital X, small x, whatever you want to do. I have assigned a value 3 in normal mathematics. Okay, in normal mathematics, if I want to do the same thing in C++, so x is my variable here. Fine. Okay, in C++ also. So what do you need to do in C++ if you want to write this simple thing? You need, because this variable here in C++ does not represent 3, instead this x represent a place in your computer. This represents a place in your computer, and that place is going to hold this value 3. So this x is going to represent this place. Okay, and in that place the value 3 will be stored, and that much specification you need to put when you are defining x is equals to 3 in C++. But in Python, you will simply write x is equals to 3, and the variable has taken the value x is equals to 3. That is as simple as that in Python. But it is not equally simple in C++, although C++ is also one of the very, very important and very widely used language. So that's why you will see nowadays that all around the world, when people start with programming, they start with Python, because this is very, very easy to pick up. Okay, that's it. So far so clear? Great. Okay. Now we'll jump to the way of programming. So when you start a programming, you must keep this thing in mind, that you have to be one of the three persons at one point of time. So what all those three persons are like? So either you will be acting or thinking like a mathematician. So what does that mean? Whenever you are programming, you are dealing in formal language, and whenever you are dealing in formal language, what happens that you need to be very, very specific with your symbols and their meanings. You cannot juggle and replace one symbol with other, because those will lead to syntax error in your programming. So you will have to be very, very clear with your syntax or symbols, that what a particular symbol mean and how you are going to use or manipulate it. You cannot use or manipulate it at your own will. Rather, they will be used or manipulated as specified in the Python. So when I'm saying that you are going to act as a mathematician, all I mean to say is this, that you need to be very, very careful with the syntax. Okay. Second, you need to act like an engineer. Once you are good with syntax, like you have used enough of Python in your programming, and you know that what particular symbol means what and how you can manipulate them, you are very comfortable with that. Now you will be acting like an engineer. So how will you, what does that mean? That means that you need to understand your problem properly, and then design a solution which is optimal. Okay, so you need to design an optimal solution given uh, for a particular problem. Okay, and once you have designed an optimal solution for your problem, then you need to act like a scientist. Now you need to set up a hypothesis and check and check and check it's every time, so that you are very sure that whatever you have built is correct. Once you have done this thing, your program is completely ready for use, right? Okay, great. Now what we are doing in programming after all? So after all, in a programming we have a problem and we are trying to solve that problem. That is all we are doing in programming. So I would say that even if you are not doing many things in programming, you should pick up any of the language. For today we are dealing in Python, but you should pick any other language if you are comfortable in that, and start solving problem in that particular language. Why? Because this will help you to design a solution for a problem, and in that way your problem solving approach improves a lot. Okay, your problem solving approach will improve a lot when you are solving anything in programming. Okay, now, so there are other high level language also available. So C is also not a low level language. C is also a high level language. Python is another high level language. Perl is another higher level language. Java is another high level language. So these are all examples of high level language. When there are high level language, there will be low level language also. So low level language are either called machine language or assembly language. Okay, so what is the use of low level language? So whenever you type anything in the high level language, loosely speaking, you say that computer execute anything only in the low level language. So whenever you have written something in high level language, that will first get translated into low level language, and then computer will execute it. Okay, so high level language gets converted into low level language and then gets executed, and then you get your result. Great. Okay, so you see that when high level language get converted into low level language, it takes time. That is called processing time. And that's the disadvantage of high level language. So we should use low level language? No, that's incorrect. We should use high level language only. Why? Because programming is easier in high level language, because it only deals with lot of it only deals with syntax or functions or words which we generally use in our daily life. So that is very easy to capture, and it is very structured also. So easier to program, require less time, shorter and easier to read, and more likely to be correct, because if you are dealing in low level language you will do a lot of mistakes, but in high level language the chances of doing mistakes are less. And most of all, it is portable. It is portable means you have written a program, somebody else can take it, or you can yourself take it and execute it at another platform or somewhere else. So very very portable. But low level languages are not that portable. Okay, so I'm just dealing with the advantages of using high level language, and even in high level language I'm telling you that Python is best for for this time, if you want to use any high level language. Okay, now when you remember in the previous slide we dealt that high level language gets first, I mean high level language will be converted into low level language, and then computer executes your program. So anything that you have written in high level language, that will get converted into low level language, and then the execution will happen. Great. So now here is a difference. The difference is because of this thing. There are two kinds of program in high level there are two kinds of program which convert your program into from high level language to low level language. Okay, those programs are called interpreter, and the second one is called compiler. Okay, so the first is interpreter and second is called compiler. Let's see how does this work. So you have written a code in high level language that is called source code. Okay, now your source code will get converted, your source code will get converted into low level language, right, by this interpreter. and then this low level will be executed, and then you get your output. This is the complete procedure. Now the second procedure is by compiler. So what is the difference between these two? So whenever you are using this medium, that is interpreter medium, you have written something that is called in high level language. Okay, you have written something in high level language. So in the interpreter mode, your each line will be converted into, each single line will get converted into low level language and then executed. But in the compiler mode, your complete source code will get converted, okay, into object code through compiler, and then that complete code will be executed. So it is not line by line, not one by one, but complete code. Everything here will get converted into object code, and then everything here will be executed and you'll get your output. But little difference here, right? You have one line, this one line will get converted into low level language, and then that one line will be translated into, and then you get output of that one line. That is what line by line, statement by statement, you will get your output. That's the difference between interpreter and compiler. Now what is Python? Python is which of these two? Python is interpreter. It executes your program line by line. Okay, so Python is an interpreter language. There are two ways to use interpreter. Now the first way is to type everything in the command line and get your result instantly. So you write 2 plus 2 and you get 4 instantly, or you type something in a script that is complete program and then execute it once. So these are the two methods in which you can use Python. Either you use command line or you use script mode. So whenever you are using command line in Python, so what actually you do, you type one line and you get your result. Okay, fine. So what is suggested is that you should use command line method. Why? Because whenever you have started your programming, when you are developing your program, you need to see the result at each instant whether you are going correct or not, and hence command line is important. Once you have done something in command line, once your complete program is ready, then you get convert your those things into script and save it for the further use. That's it. That's as simple as that. Okay. Okay, now that is all about the I would say the background of Python, that why you should use Python, how everything gets executed in Python, how you should write your code, and blah blah blah, right? Okay, now we are jumping into the basics of programming. Okay, so in the programming, what is a program in computer? A program is a sequence of introduction for performing computation. So computation could be of any type. So if you want to do something, you write a sequence of instruction for the computer, and the computer then follow it in Python. I would say it follow it line by line and then execute it, and you get your result. So that execution is called computation. Okay, now that computation could be of mathematical or symbolic type. Okay, that computation could be mathematical or symbolic. So if you are adding two, you have asked Python to add 2 plus 2, it gives you result 4. This is one computation in mathematics, right? And the Python will take time to compute this thing. But suppose if you want to search something, say letter S in your complete text that you have, maybe PDF or whatever file you have, you want to look for a letter S. So Python will go letter by letter and see whether that letter is S or not. So that is also a kind of computation for Python, because it is checking whether this letter is S or not. If it is not, it is discarding it. Wherever it will find S, wherever it will find a match, it will give you that match. Okay, that's it. So computation could be of any type. So whenever you are doing programming, forget for the time being the computation that you generally understand in mathematics, that computation is only some integer or kind of manipulation. Okay, computation could be symbolic also. Okay, Now, details could be differ in different languages. So what I'm saying is that in programming, you do computation, right? You only do computation with the sequence of introduction, with a sequence of instructions. But there are 4 5 things that is all you do in programming. You believe me, these are only things that you do in any language. Maybe the syntax or little bit here and there could be different, but these are the only things that you do in programming. You give computer input through programming. Okay, you get output through your programming. You do some kind of mathematical calculation, computation in programming in between. You do some kind of conditional execution. So conditional executions are like, if this then this, if not this then not this. Okay, something like that. So some conditional. Okay, if this condition matches, then you should do this computation. If this condition does not match, okay, you remember this thing, right? If something matches, you go this way, you execute this. If this does not match, you execute this. So that is conditional execution. Okay, and then you do it repetition. So you want to add 1 plus 1, and then whatever is the result you want to add plus 1 to it, and then whatever is the result you want to add plus 1 to that, and whatever is the result you want to add plus 1 to that. In that way, if you want to repeat this addition, so that is addition. So believe me or not, this is all you do in programming. If you are using Python, C++, you can change your language, but this is all you can do in programming. And this may look very, very little thing for you, but this have miraculous result in programming. Okay, now we are introducing you the concept of debugging. Okay, so if your program runs into any error, that is generally called bug in programming. Okay, and the method of correcting it is called debugging. Okay, now there are 3 kinds of errors in programming. First is called syntax error, where I said you that you must think like a mathematician. You should be very, very clear with your uh, with your symbols and its manipulation. Okay, so how you can, what you can subtract from what, you, how you should write something, you should be very, very clear with the syntax. If you are not clear with the syntax, then what happens that Python will stop execution right there and will give you the error, that what kind of error you have made in your program. Okay, so that is called syntax error. So whenever you start programming in any new language, you will see that you will first encounter a lot of syntax error. But syntax error is not a very serious thing, because few days of practice and you will come to know that my syntax is correct or incorrect, and you will very easily correct them. Second error is called runtime error. So runtime error is some kind of error which comes to you only if you execute your program. That is what it is called, runtime error. Sorry, that's why it is called routine error. So when you run your program, then only you will come to know that there are some kind of error in your program. So this error we will come to know once the course progresses, and you will see that you will come to know about lot of runtime error. And the third error is called semantic error. So not very difficult thing to understand. Semantic error is something like you intended to find out the sum of these two numbers, that is 2 plus 2 is equals to 4, but somewhere in your programming you wrote 2 into 2, right? That will give you also 4, but you will not always deal in integers there. You will have something as x and y, right? So x plus y is 4 here, but suppose x and y value gets changed, then suppose it is 3 and 2. Okay, then you wanted to get 5, but you will end up getting 6, right? You will end up getting 6, right? So Python will not give you syntax error here. Why? Because everything is fine. You multiply 3 into 2, Python is fine with that. It will multiply it and it will give you the result. But this is not what you wanted to do. You wanted to do this thing, right? So those kind of error are called syntax error. That means you did not get what you wanted to get. Okay, So that's all. The definition of all these kind of errors I have written here. So syntax error refers to the structure of the program and rules about the structure. So this is basically rules of any language. You should not violate those rules. If you are violating those rules, Python will stop execution of program right there and will give you the error, the kind of error that you might have committed. Second is called runtime error. As I said you that this kind of error only comes when once you execute your program. We'll see about this runtime error. Examples will make it more clear. Right now we are right now putting it on side. We are not discussing it for time being. The semantic error, as I said very clearly, that you wanted to get something else, but you did not get what you expected. That kind of error are called semantic error. That means you are completely fine with the syntax of the program, but you have made some kind of logical error in your programming. So these logical error are most difficult to find because the computer will not help you. You can only help yourself in the course of time. Okay, and you will see that this debugging over a course of time, that means finding out the error in your programming over a course of time, will become very interesting thing, because you will see that you will have to work like a detective or you will be working like an empirical scientist. Why I'm saying that? Because once you get some kind of error, say semantic error, and you have to find out what is the logical flaw in your programming. How will you do it? So you will make an hypothesis that maybe I might have committed this error. Then you will correct it and you will rerun your program and you will see that okay, I'm now getting right results. So you are kind of sure that okay, my hypothesis was correct or not. But you cannot be very sure because that could be a conditional thing. So this is very tricky. Finding out the semantic error in your programming is very tricky, that what logical error you have committed in your programming. And you will see that this will only come with a lot of experience and subject knowledge of your thing. So if you have very good knowledge of econometrics, then only you will be able to find out semantic error. Otherwise, if somebody is very good programmer in Python but he has no understanding of econometrics, then he may never be able to find out the mistake or error in his program. Okay, so that's why understanding your base, that is econometrics, for this course is very important to do any kind of programming in Python. Otherwise you will be doing semantic error a lot. Okay, the syntax error is never an issue. You will anyway correct it within 10 days, and runtime error, of course, you will get it while you execute your program, and then you will correct it. So you see where I am focusing on syntax semantic error, right? Okay, great. So you will see that the semantic error will also get corrected over a period of time and with the good knowledge of your subject. Okay, now, now we are going to start. Now we are going to start. What are we going to deal with in Python? So what are the things that you will be dealing with in Python? So the most fundamental thing that you will deal with in Python are called values. Okay, this is the most fundamental thing in Python. Or for that matter, maybe the name change, maybe the name value will change into something else, but for any other language, this is the most fundamental thing. So value is one of the most fundamental thing, where, say I give you an example, 1 plus 1, you write 2. So you have manipulated 1, you have taken another one, you have manipulated it with plus, and you got 2. So all those things that you have manipulated and the result that you got are called values. Okay, so anything that you are going to operate on, okay, is your value. You see here, hello world, I want to print hello world, right? You might have seen the programming that in the very beginning we started with. I wanted to print hello world. Okay, so this hello world is a string, but after all it is a value, because I'm going to manipulate, I'm going to print hello world. So you understand values. Values are those fundamental things in your programming on which you are going to do some kind of manipulation. Okay, or on which you are going to operate. Okay, now if you are not very sure that what is the type of your value, so here you see 1 is a value, but it is of type integer, right? It is of type integer. Hello world is also a value, but it is of type string. So if you are not very sure that what is the type of your value, then you need to do this thing. You write type, okay, and then type your value as it is, and it will give you a result. So it is very clear to understand that hello world is string, right? If you type 2, it is an integer, it will give you integer. So I understand that 2 is an integer. If I type 2 in quotes, then it will be a string. So what is my understanding now? If anything is within quotes, it becomes string. So 2 under quotes becomes string. Okay. Now type, if you write this type 2.2, you will see that this is not generally integer, it is float. Not generally. If you write something in points, the type will give you float. And the most interesting is this: you type you print this thing in Python. Simply write print, under the parenthesis you write this. You will think that this is 1 lakh, but this is not 1 lakh. This is just this, because Python will return you this. Why? Because Python has considered this as one value, this as another value, and this as another value. So when it has considered these things as 3 different value, so it will return you 1, okay, 1 here. It will return you 0 from here. Why? Because it will consider that another 0 is redundant, and it will return you 1 another 0 from here, because it will consider that other rest of the 2 zeros are redundant. Okay, so I think we are very clear with values. So just to sum up, values are those things on which you are going to do your manipulation, and values will have a type, whether either it will be integer, or it will be string, or it will be float. Okay, it will be any of these 3 things. I mean, it will have some kind of value will be have some kind of type. So to understand that what is the type of your value, you will write type, and within the parenthesis you will simply put it as it is. Okay, now we'll come to the concept of variables. Okay, so variable is the name that refers to a value. So in the previous thing we said that we got 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. Now if I'll assign something to this result, that is 1 plus 1, so what I'm doing, x is 2, right? Or I can write x is equals to, right, 1 plus 1. Okay, so I know that this gets executed and get converted into 2, and this 2 is stored, or you say is referred by variable x. So that's the definition of variable. So variable is the name that refers to a value, and we completely understand what is a value. We know that value are to be manipulated in our programming. That means, after all, variables are also going to be manipulated in the programming. Okay, you are going to do some kind of operation on variables. Okay, so just for the exposition, okay, suppose I write hello world with quotes. That means it is a string. We have seen it many times in the previous slide. So this is a string, and this string get referred by the word message. So wherever you will type message, that is print message, you will get hello world. I'll show you. Please notice the difference. Okay, so what is the difference? The difference is you put hello world in the quotes, but when you print message, you only get hello world, you are not getting quotes. Okay, can you see the difference? If you are able to see the difference, you understand that print does not return you as it is. It will return you for the purpose of reading it, for the purpose of understanding it. It will not go into the details of what was behind it. You put quotes here. Remember, why did you put quotes? You put quotes here so that this hello world is in a string. Quotes will convert anything into a string. So you put quotes to to keep this hello world into a string type, right? But when you print this message, this variable, you see that these codes are lost. Okay, these codes are lost, no more there. So if these codes are no more there, that means print simply convert anything for the purpose of our visualization, for the purpose of our understanding. Okay, and these string, int, floats, they are for computer understanding. Okay, now you see n is 17. If I print n, I'll get 17. Okay, so very simple to understand what are variables. So variables are the reference for particular numbers. Okay, they refer to particular value, not number, value. So keep it value. The concept of value is very clear, and so the concept of variable is also very clear. Okay, great. Now choose meaningful name for your variable. So it is advised that you should always choose very meaningful name for your variable, because once you progress in your programming, it will be a huge script, and then you will be lost that what a particular variable refer to. So this is very general guideline. Okay, now this is little bit you must always care about, that a variable can have both letters and numbers as a name. So you can write x is equals to 2, but you can not write 2x is equals to 2. Okay, so variable, but you can write x underscore 2 is equals to 2. Okay, so variable can have letters and digits in it, but it cannot start with a digit. It has to start with a letter. Okay, great. Now uh, yeah, so any other like most of the language, Python is also very case sensitive. So capital X and small x refer to two different things in Python. That's very simple thing. And now you must not keep the name of your variables from the keywords that are predefined in Python. So there are few keywords that that have been built in Python by those people who have developed this language. Okay, you should never use these keywords for your variables, otherwise you will get an error. Okay, so what are those keywords? Those keywords list are here. We are not going to discuss it here. Simply you should not use among these keywords. Okay, just don't use these keywords, because they are for particular purpose in Python. If you'll keep the name of your variable with these keywords, Python will give you an error. Okay, now the statement and exposition, this is little bit complex, but we can handle it. If we are able to give complete attention, you will be able to handle it very clearly. So statement is an instruction that Python interpreter execute. You remember in the beginning of the class we said that Python is an interpreter type of language. So line by line, so if you have written your code and it has say 4 lines, so first this statement will get executed, you will get the output, then the second statement will executed, output will be generated, then the third statement will be executed, output will be generated, and the fourth statement will be executed and output will be generated. So all these things which can be executed at one point of time in Python are called statements. So you cannot execute anything in Python, right? There has to be something complete which computer can understand and execute and give you output. To get this output, there has to be something in it, and that something which is executable is called statement. Okay, fine. Whereas an expression is the combination of values, variable, and operators that evaluates to a value. So you say in the beginning we said 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. So this is my value, this is my value, and this plus is my operator. Okay, so I operated on these two things using this operator and I get a value 2, right? So I have used value, you can use variable also, and I have used an operator, and I got a value. So this is an expression. So something which evaluates into something, like this thing evaluated into 2, right? As I said, let's take this example. 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. Here, this thing got executed and the result is 2. Okay, so something which evaluates into something else are called expression. You can store this 2 as x, no problem. Okay, so now the statement and expression are little complex. You might be thinking that we are executing here also, right? And whenever we are dealing with statement, we were executing there also. So what is the difference between statement and expression? Okay, so let's just try to understand this. Let's take this simple example. You might not be very familiar with the code, that small code, very small 4 lines I have written here. You might not be familiar, but just try to understand it. This is not very difficult thing. N is equals to 4 I have written. That means this is a value. Okay, and I have assigned this is a value, no problem in this. Okay, and I have assigned this value into a variable called x. So what is my n? N is my variable. Okay, n is my variable. Okay, great. So if n is my variable and 4 is my value, what I'm saying, I'm saying that I am giving the variable n a value 4. Once you will run this on your own, once you'll run this, you will see that n now has value 4. And once you print n, simply print n into your Jupyter notebook. If you are opening, if you are having Jupyter notebook, simply do this. Okay, in your free time also, not tn, and it will give you value 4 as output. So this is a statement. Yes, this is a statement because this got executed. Great. Is this an expression? Yes. N is equals to 4 is an expression. Why? N is equals to 4 is an expression because it gets evaluated into something. Okay, so 4 and now becomes 4. Okay, and now becomes 4. Hence we say that this is both an expression and a statement. Okay, now come to this line. So nothing much clear here. We understood what we are doing here, but we are not very clear whether this is a statement or an expression. We say that this is both an expression and a statement. Now come to this line. Okay, I'm saying that if n is greater than 3, right? So now see, if n is greater than 3, is this true or false? Given the value of n is equals to 4, this is true. That means this thing got executed, right? But you cannot assign a value to this expression, right? This cannot be an expression. Just try and understand this. This is little subtle, little difficult concept here, but you can understand this, I'm pretty sure. I'm saying that n is 4. Okay, and I'm saying that if n is greater than equals to 3, the moment I say this, the condition will come that this is a true statement. Why? Because n is 4. If you'll put 4 here, 4 is greater than 3, that means this is true. This can get executed. So this is a statement. Is this an expression? So I'm saying that this must evaluate into something, but it has not evaluated into something. You remember in the previous example, I said 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. So this complete thing get evaluated into 2. Here, this got executed, that this statement is true, but this does not result into anything. Hence, this is not an expression. So I think now the concept of statement and expression would be very clear to you. But as I said, we are not going to go very deep into computer programming, and because we are not going very deep into computer programming, so you can handle this thing with a rule of thumb, because many a time definitions are little confusing. Okay, definitions are sometimes confusing. I have written these two definitions here, but they could be little confusing. So if you want to see whether something is a statement or an expression, just use this rule of thumb, that if you are able to assign it to a variable, then it is an expression. Okay, so I am able to assign 4 to n, so this is an expression. Am I able to assign if n is greater than equals to 3 to any variable? No, so this is not an expression. So the final result, the result is all the expressions are statements, but all statements are not expression. Okay, so my expectation is this, that you must go back after this class and try and understand this statement. Okay, once you have understood this statement, I would say that you have understood this concept of statement and expression. Okay, great. Now maybe we decided that we will close this. So it's not a very difficult concept to understand this, the concept of statement and variable. I may continue with the presentation further, and in between if any doubt comes, we'll try to tackle that doubt. Okay, so in the process of statement and expression only, let's try and understand the expression little bit more. Okay, so we see, we assign the message hello world, we assign this string. Why this is a string? You remember from the class, if we put anything under quotes, that will become a string. So we have put that string into, we have assigned this thing, I mean we have assigned a variable for this string. Great. Now in the Jupyter notebook, you type message, you type this and you type this thereafter, and you see the result. The result will be as it is. So you have assigned hello world with quotes, you have assigned hello world with quotes to the variable message. Okay, and when you wanted to see what is there in the message, you get as it is. There is no difference, not an iota of difference between what you have assigned and what you get. Now you see, we also did this thing, message, print message, and you see we get hello world. Here you don't have quotes. So what is the difference? The difference is, when anything get assigned into something, I said this is an expression, right? I said that this is an expression. Okay, but the expression is further going to be used in the program, and because this is further going to be used in the program, so nothing will change, because you have put this thing as string. So it will continue as a string and it will be continue as hello world. Nothing will change. But as I said, once you print this word message, you get hello world. That means this is not going to be further used in the program. You just wanted to see what is there in the message, and Python will put it very clearly before you, I mean, putting or getting rid of every other thing like quotes and all those things may not be very good for eyes to see, or may not be very good for understanding. So it will get rid of all those things and will give you a very, very clean message. Okay, so you see what is the expression here. Again, I'm trying to explain you the expression. So expression is any kind of evaluation, so any kind of combination of values, or values and then operator and then variable, and then when these combination evaluated into something, that something will be further used in the programming or may not be used, but Python don't know it right now, so it will keep it as it is. And if you want to see it, it will return you as it was stored. So it was stored as string, it gave you a string, right? So we are very, very clear with this concept of statement and expression. Great. Now now uh, now we are going to deal in the next 2-4 minutes, we are going to deal with operators and operands. So that's not very difficult. So this is very easy. So these are the values. So something on which we are going to operate are called values, and they are also called operands on which we are going to operate. And this plus sign are called operators. So what kind of manipulation you are going to do, those are operators. And these operators are very, very similar to mathematics. So plus on integers means plus, minus means minus, this is multiplication, and then double star is raised to the power something. So these are very, very easy thing to understand. Once we'll try to forward this slide to you, and you go through this and you will understand everything. That's very, very clean. Okay, now manipulation on values which are integer is easy, and it is very, very similar to mathematics. But if something is string, okay, if something is string, now there operators are not same as mathematics. It will be little different. So we'll see the difference. So if you type hello world, if you type hello world, okay, hello, and multiply it with 3, you will get hello 3 times. So you'll get something like this: hello, 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 all these things. Okay, so you'll get hello 3 times. Okay, so little uh, difference will occur when you are operating with some operator on integers, like these are integers, or you are operating with these integers on string. Okay, so we have covered I think fair amount of thing in today's class. Okay, although our plan was to cover little more. Okay, but we'll see. From next class we'll pick up from composition, we'll finish it, and then we'll get back to basic econometrics. Okay, if any question, you are most welcome to ask. Please suit up your question. We are looking the chat box. If you want to ask something, you can write in chat box and we'll try to answer it here. Okay guys, I think it's time. Maybe if you want to ask something, you can always, yeah. I think there is one doubt. Okay, so this person has written, what is the result of minute divided by 70? So okay, and second guy, okay, I'll try to answer both of these questions one by one. So the first person has asked, what is the result of minute divided by 70? Okay, so I'll write it here. So he's writing minute divided by 60. Okay, and suppose you have defined a variable minute. Okay, suppose you have defined a variable minute. Okay, and it is 30. Okay, so you are actually asking Python to divide 30 by 60. Now you see these two are integers, right? So these two are integers, so ideally your answer should be 1 by 2, that is 0.5. But it may happen that if you are dealing with older version of Python, you will get this thing as 0. Why? Because these two are integers, and the default programming of Python is it will lower down the it will round off to the lower bound. So the lower bound of 0.5 is 0 on integer, right? So it will return you 0 if you are dealing with the older version of Python. But if you are dealing with the latest version of Python, so they are now evaluating it to 0.5. They have done some kind of change, so you will get 0.5 there. But with the older version of Python, you will get 0. And in the older version of Python, if you want to evaluate it into 0.5, you simply convert any of these two integers into float. So simply put it like this: 60.0. Okay, 60.0, and then it will give you 0.5. So I think I hope this has answered your question. Okay, The second question is, where do we write the codes? Okay, so to write the code, if you have downloaded Anaconda that was forwarded, the link of the same was forwarded to you. You go to the command prompt, type Anaconda, open it, and when it opens, simply write Jupyter Notebook. Everything is small. Everything in small. Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter, Jupyter Notebook. Okay, you simply write Jupyter Notebook, and you uh, a platform will open. You will see that a complete platform will open, a home screen will open. There you go and open a separate Jupyter Notebook. But what is happening that I will not be able to show it to now complete thing. Maybe in the next class I'll try to answer your question that where you will write codes. Okay, so I'll try to do the next class very practical. Okay.